everyone. I've been vocal about Industrial Revolution 5, Industry 5, and I've been writing blogs a lot on how it is transitioning. But seems like the key foundation was missing for me to explain. I'm uh, kind of revisiting those areas where I want to give more clarity on what is happening, how it is happening, right? So basically, we have a lot of steps before we actually fully transition to a super intelligent AI, which is the current visibility of what would be the highest form of AI that would be available, right? Now, it totally has around 12 different steps altogether if we have to go all the way till super intelligent AI usage at the maximum, right? I'll just quote the names of it as I revisit each one again in individual podcast. So first is the undocumented manual practices, then comes the documented manual practices, then comes a documented process, then comes a defined value stream, then comes a defined practice, then comes the defined systems. Post this is where the automation starts. The automated steps come into picture, then steps transition to usage of generational AI, which would be more in terms of use of vibe coding and other not vibe coding. This is generational AI, so automation of service desk, customer service, those kind of things. And later it comes to automated workflows. Don't consider this as agentic AI. Agentic AI is the next step where it works with the AI. Automated workflows are just decisions configured into the workflow. And next comes the agentic AI, which is basically AI working with workflows and automating it. And next is the intelligent AI. And lastly, it is the super intelligent AI, right? And why it has to pass through this is we have to understand that each organization is unique within a region. And even when we compare from region to region, there are different laws and different working systems that comes into place. For example, if we consider EMEA, they have different compliance guidelines. When we consider APAC, they have completely different guidelines. And even when we consider the Americas, that has a different guideline. And other than that, if we delve into one region itself, maybe one organization is more mature compared to the other organization. So not all can adopt to a particular level at the same time. But basically, what happens is based on the current state, they should start the journey. Current state would differ from organization to organization, region to region, and also from type of industry to type of industry. For example, what applies for a IT might not IT based industry might not be applicable for a manufacturing industry. A manufacturing industry is completely different from the financial industry, right? So all those nitty-gritties come into picture, and that's where what happens basically is we need someone to start the journey and follow through the journey. Right now, before I start with the 12 different steps which I stated on more elaborated talks, I would take some time on the next podcast to talk about the current state of agentic AI or Gen AI or the vibe coding altogether, and I'll set the context so you understand better. With that, I would end this short video, and see you on the next video. Thank you. Hi again, this is basically a podcast on what artificial intelligence is, what is its limitations, what it does, what it cannot do. So it's just a pep talk before I start more into Industry 5, right? So here, what we see is basically artificial intelligence is basically a collection of knowledge repository. So whatever books written, whatever research we have done so far, whatever the systems are in place, whatever the region-wise regulations have been followed so far, from the beginning of what we have documented till date is something which AI is trained on, and all it can do is it can replicate the information which we have fed to it. Basically, we have trained it on the information which is documented. So it can't do anything other than what we have already documented. And for which we have provided the access to it and have trained it to understand, right? For example, if you go to a very new startup where the systems are not there, there is no standard set of working, unless they adopt a complete different AI specialized and matching their industry as well as their customer, the specific scenario in which they are, they wouldn't be able to use AI. So AI specifically can be used when the systems are a lot mature compared to ad hoc working basis, right? There should be certain regularized way, defined steps, defined way of working. Only then AI can be adopted. Even before AI, automations has to come in place so that the AI can take over. AI can't invent anything, right? As the AI itself says that AI was present from a long time and humans just discovered it, right? But what AI can do is AI can only parrot back what humans know, right? The only difference is it has access to many domains, it has access to many research papers, it has access to many information which a individual human or a set of humans with limited set of humans may not be able to comprehend and solve certain problems. That's where AI comes into picture, especially because the vast amount of data which on which it has been trained makes it a little upper hand because it can retrieve based on all the permutations and combinations to come up with something which looks to be superhuman, right? Now, there is a limitation for AI, right? Other than what is already known to human, it can't identify anything which is unknown by the human. At the max, it can do permutation and combination of the already discovered, invented possibilities and come up with the new permutation and combination. That's all, right? That is what current AI is. And they say that the super intelligent AI will be able to innovate, but that is still a gray area. We have not reached that stage, and I doubt that that stage also because logically it's not something which is feasible, right? So, for example, maybe when we talk about the God, right, which is unknown to human, no human has seen it in the current world. So when you ask such kind of questions, it just parrot backs what is known to human, what is documented by the human. and there are a lot of gray areas where we can't validate if it is true or false, right? So that is the beginning. That's also current Gen AI or even the vibe coding what we do has limited probability and combinations. So when we are implementing the current version of uh, Gen AI or even the vibe coding, right? What I see is as of on July 23rd, 2025, uh, this particular code which generates or the information what it shares is still not vetted. It might be giving a wrong assumption completely altogether. It might be coming up with wrong permutation and combination. So it can't be trusted at this part of the time. That's where a particular Gen AI information has to be validated. And that's where vibe coding, even if you're taking help of AI, you're supposed to do it in a language which is familiar to you. The reason is because you have to do a code review, right? And to talk at a bigger picture, AI is just uh, it just follows the instruction. So you're supposed to set the direction for it. You're supposed to give a lot of inputs for it to strategize and do the activities. Well, it doesn't strategize on its own. So you have to define the strategies. You have to define the outcomes. You have to feed it step by step so that the expected outcome can be achieved, right? So AI on its own can't do anything at this part of the time. Even in future, if it does, it would be based on defined systems, which is mature enough to have been fed, trained to the AI, right? Without being fed and trained, it will not be able to replicate anything which is which can be done by a human, right? So the outcome has to be defined, the approach has to be defined, the strategy has to be defined. How it does, for example, let's say that I know PHP, right? Now, if I ask AI to write in .NET, right, I have to specifically specify the language also so that it's easier for me to ensure that I can do a code review, right? That is how it is. It learns. I agree, it learns, but it learns only where it has access to and it has been trained on and what is being documented. So something is in your head at this part of the time can't be conceived by the AI, right? That is a far long. Yes, we have super intelligence where it interacts with our brain and we don't have to do any physical activities just by thinking about things in the brain. The AI can do it. But again, the brain has to give the instructions to it, well-defined instructions, defined outcomes, defined strategies, right? So it's basically a kind of a child who has to be basically a kid who has to be directed with all spoon-fed information. Else, there are ways for things to go haywire, right? With that, I end this. And as I before ending this, I just wanted to add, it's not that I'm not worried about my job. I do have job constraints because it all depends on what is the strategy behind implementing AI, right? For example, let's say that we are not trained, for example, right? If we are not trained on let's say prompt engineering or even vibe coding, right? If we don't upskill ourselves at the right time, there are more chances of we being obsolete from the employment or the job perspectives, right? So that's where the important thing is to follow all the AI updates, equip ourselves, keep learning, continual learning, that is the key. See, when I say vibe coding, it's basically a conversational AI, which on certain prompts of, for example, let's say BRD, FRD, business requirement document, functional requirement document, technical requirement document. All these three, if it all is very well descriptive, and I feed it to vibe coding tools such as Lovable or Cloud CLI, or even the grok, right? So it does create programs, but basically I need to know how to use it and to what level the BRD, FRD, and TRD has to be documented. How, what are the verbiage? How best can the AI tool understand it? These all things is something which I'm supposed to know. And also deployment, how it happens. Today morning, I read that there was a startup which didn't have production test instance or even development instance. So they were directly doing the code change on prod using Replit, right? Now that is a foolish thing, right? You are allowing Replit to do a code change in production environment without doing a development, without having a development instance, and without even having a test instance. So it deleted some code. First of all, how who granted it the access to delete it, right? So the governance makes a bigger picture here. So we are supposed to have production instance. We are supposed to have test instance. And I know AI already has a capability to do a end-to-end testing as well. So that's where you have to give it a separate instance to play around and have that manual checkpoint at least on what happens in prod, right? Especially at this immature level of Gen AI or AI, there is a need of more primary governance to be in place on what AI does on the production systems, right? So that's a complete foolish thing. We can't blame the tool or blame the tool or blame the AI for doing it. Basically, you allowed it to do it. You didn't have proper governance checkpoints. You're just being a lot foolish here, right? So that's how a lot of checkpoints comes into picture, and this is going to be it's not going to go away because if you compare in India, right? In India, there are certain ways where the financial systems work. There are certain systems where we are dependent on manual process. We have not yet digitized completely. And if you want AI to be implemented in India, it's going to be a long process. And it's not something which we can adopt from US or China or the UK because we have our own systems. We have our own legal systems. We have our own financial systems. We have our own financial regulations. We have our own guidelines. So it's not that one size fits for all. You get it, right? So there are a lot of things which is going to remain the same until and unless we follow a step-by-step procedure, a disciplined, a structural procedure to achieve the highest maturity, which would be the super intelligent AI, which will be kind of autonomous, but looks autonomous, still the instruction goes directly from our brains. So basically, uh, we can call it we can call it as I've been calling it out for Neuralink. So Neuralink has a brain augmented device basically, which connects with the AI. They are experimenting on that. But as it improves, we can see that the device would interact with the bone conduction and passes the brain waves to the artificial intelligence. So that's how the future of AI will be and the future of humans will be. Right? That doesn't mean that our jobs are at stake, but if at all we don't upskill, even in the absence of AI, there has been certain instances where we were reluctant to learn and we were obsolete. And that's how it will be. With that, I end this podcast. Thank you. Okay, back again. This is about the first step, right? In any industry, this step is going to be industry agnostic and mostly I would say any place this would be the foundation step. Basically, everything is being done ad hocly, right? Even in a team, this is the old CMMI. I'm not talking rocket science. CMMI zero level, where everything is manual, not standardized, not documented, complete zero. I do it in a different way. My colleague does in a different way. Another person has a third way to do it within an organization or within a particular company or within a particular industry, right? I wouldn't say industry. Let's take it as small as an organization, right? Because we will be talking about how our organization adopts AI in this 12 episodes of AI, right? So first thing is, if at all it is not documented, everyone is not doing in a standardized way, and everyone is doing in their own way, and outcomes are not same, maybe a 5% variance, right? Or maybe a complete 100% variance. Maybe in a manufacturing unit, the mold is not placed properly. So every time they come up with the manufacturing output, maybe the mold is completely different, resulting in a lot of wastages, right? So, just an example here. So, unless there is a standardization put into place, how can you automate? Gen AI is far behind because it works in a structured way. You have to feed it on how you do it, right? That's a far way. So, the ground zero is you need to, you are at ground zero where you also don't know what works. That's how ground zero is, right? That is level one or say level zero as per CMMI model. But this is completely undocumented, nothing present. Everyone does in a different way. Haywire. And if you look at what Gen AI is happening now, I mean, if you look at the AI evolution which is happening now, that is itself. Even OpenAI doesn't know what to use with it, right? What to do with it. We are chatting with it as if we are asking our life problems or sharing it as sharing information as if it's my buddy, right? I'm just asking for useless stuff, or maybe flirting it as dating app, artificial dating app, right? That's what the current evolution of AI is. No one knows how to use it. No one knows how to make it productive. No one knows how to get revenue out of it at this part of the time, right? It's complete chaos everywhere. Everyone wants to use AI, but no one knows how to use AI, how to expect revenue out of it, how to make it profitable, right? There are certain individuals who are very good at prompt engineering, where they have come across possible ways to uh, get suggestions from Gen AI on earning money. This works well in mature, I would say, I always say mature, but it's basically developed countries because they have a system. Their legal system is documented. Everyone knows. It's basically digitized, right? It's basically digitized. So everyone knows from where the money will come. There are standard ways of earning money. So these are already trained, AI is already trained on these digitized systems. So it's easier for it to communicate on the way how to basically find loopholes or find the best possible way using permutation and combinations. to recommend few steps using which they will be able to earn revenue. But if the same question is asked in India, it doesn't apply here, right? It's nothing is digitized here, nothing is standard way of working here. So it's completely different compared to the individual asking how to generate revenue, right? There are other things which are standard, coming to the professional way of working, coming to the global tools, what we have adopted, coming to the learning mechanisms, which is more strategized. So these kind of things we can still use AI as in the conversational AI, right? But when it comes to the organization's enterprise level, conversation level is not the thing what we are looking for. We're looking for a revenue basis too. So when the organization is at zero maturity level, as in nothing documented, everything is ad hoc, their next step is to go to documented steps, right? Documented steps. Now, I end this podcast here and will catch you up in the next podcast, which is about documented steps. Thank you. Hey everyone, back again. Let's talk about the second step of the AI adaptation. That is basically documenting the steps, right? Now, any organization, any department, in anyone going through the ad hoc process, the next step is basically getting into a consensus on what is the right output, defining what is the right output, defining what are the steps involved to reach that output, basically in an efficient way to proceed and action in a way where the particular output is achieved, even if done by different people at different circumstances. It should be efficient enough, and also it should be of good quality, right? The documentation of the steps, particularly, is not digitizing it or digitally um, automating it, but basically it's basically defining the steps. What is step number one, step number two, step number three, until step number n, to define step-by-step approach to reach a expected output of that activity, right? That has to be agreed. It should be specific region compliance should be there. Specific industry related compliance should be there. Specific to each government laws also should be there. So agreeing and coming into the consensus that it complies all of this and it is a standardized approach, maybe within the department, maybe within the team, or maybe within the company, or maybe within the industry. Industry, why I'm saying, because region-based compliance comes into picture, or government laws comes into picture, or even the organizational, I'm sorry, organizational culture comes into picture where there are certain policies. So agreeing and coming into a consensus and documenting the steps is the second most important step before we start the journey of AI adoption. Okay. With that, I end the small episode here and we'll get back to you on the next one, next episode, which is about defining the value stream, right? With that, I end this note and let's meet again on the value stream podcast. Thank you. Again, next is basically the define the streams. So basically, it's a age-old concept of following the steps across different teams, departments, from the beginning of the process of delivering a product or a service till the end where the outcome of customer satisfaction and the value is reached. All right. This is the most key important factor because this helps us as humans to understand What are the steps included? What teams, departments, what tools it cuts through, and how the value is achieved, how the product is delivered, what all regulations, what all products, what all methodologies, products as in the raw materials used. All this can be documented, right? Any one single value stream may not be a product. It might be as simple as achieving a value or a customer service satisfaction. But this documenting this helps us analyze and understand different teams involved, different departments involved. As simple as the GDPR may be a key attribute as a regulation, as simple as a PII, PHI may be important to comply to different regulations and compliance. Uh, it may be as related to the SOX compliance also. So all this fall part in between somewhere in the value stream. So identifying that, adopting the right compliance framework, ensuring that it supports the audit process. What is the audit the value stream is a separate one, right? To meet the audit regulations or the governance regulations, or even the region-based regulations, right? These all can be documented part of the value streams. And this serves as an important input when we actually adopt the AI, right? For example, in India, these regulations are nowhere documented. There is no system. Forget about the value stream. We don't have documented systems or anything properly followed. It's still happening in the ad hoc way in most of the government institutions, right? So this specifically helps us understand what are the risks involved. How badly can the information be misused, right? All this comes into picture, and the risk mitigation helps us. And this would be a good input when we are actually adopting the GenAI. So all these are prep steps before we even have or even have a AI strategy in place, right? This is no way related to AI, but these are the prerequisites. We are still in the prerequisites of enabling ourselves to be capable enough to think about adoption, not even doing adoption, but think about adoption, right? So, with that, I end this podcast here. This is basically the third step of adopting AI or even thinking about having an AI in an organization or at a government level or at a team level or even at a department level. Right. And these are spread across industries. I'm not talking about industry at this part of the time. I've concluded it into a single industry agnostic way to make it understandable by everyone. I would still be covering the industry aspects because that is a bigger thing. That would be part of the series 23. This is series 24 with episode being 3 or 4, right? With that, I end this podcast. Stay tuned and do subscribe to my podcast and do listen to it. Share it. I'm not trying to be superior. I'm trying to help everyone understand my thought process, and at the same time, I'm also learning, and I'm learning and sharing it. It's not that I have already drafted a strategy plan, but I come from a variety of domains, hands-on. So I have understood how the method-based approach will help us achieve adoption of AI, right? So based on that, I'm making these videos. Feel free to share it. It's okay to ask questions. It's okay to debate. But these are the initial concepts of adopting an AI and ensuring that AI strategy is in place to adapt a AI full-fledged in an entity or at a organization level or at a government level, right? With that, I end this podcast. Thank you. Okay, next prerequisite is basically practice, right? Now we are done with the activities, steps, activities, as well as the value streams. So we have to have a practice. Practice ensures that people are in place, tools are in place, and we also have the necessary approvals to function, necessary budget, resources, maybe a vendor management system, maybe a risk management system. We are strong on the processes required to run a practice. Practice on the whole ensures that we reach the consistent outcome and also ensure that the practice and the process activities evolve as we go longer, right? Basically, making certain decisions, making certain improvement activities, which impacts more than one process altogether, right? It can be as simple as a governance practice. It can be as simple as a finance department's practice. It might be multiple again. Uh, so it depends on how the organization has divided itself, or what's the model of their governing entity, right? It can be multiple departments clubbed into one practice, or maybe one team itself is a practice, right? Depends on how it is structured, but ensuring that there is suffice ways to govern multiple processes or single processes, which includes various teams, which is basically concentrating on achievement of specific set of goals is a practice, and ensuring that the practice is well defined, know what their future goals are, what the outcome to be achieved, what is expected out of them in a more formalized documented format is pretty much a prerequisite, because when you go to a particular department to automate certain steps, you need certain governance to be in place, which not only provides you the documentation, but also helps you understand the outcomes, the nitty-gritties, the value streams. There are certain undocumented ways of working which we want to get rid of. And that happens at this part of the time. Note that this is the place where most of the strategy decisions inputs comes from. Basically, the strategy decisions are outlined on the various factors which are manually happening at the practice level, right? These are key criterias which you have to understand uh, to get rid of manual activities, what to avoid, what not to avoid, how to make take the next step of basically next step of 1 minute. Let me check. Yeah, next step of complying to systems. All right. This is one place where the decision factors, the teething factors, can be discovered before we ensure that the systems are in place. All right. What are systems? I'll get back to you in the next video. Stay tuned. Next episode, I would go ahead and elaborate more on what are systems, and I would walk you through the process of the entire step. With that, thank you. Sorry, there was a call. I got disturbed a little, but I wouldn't be re-recording this for this. I believe you understood the concept. We will go ahead and touch base on the next subject, which is ensuring that the systems are in place. With that, I end this podcast. Thank you. Okay. So now we have the systems. So management systems is basically term from the Europe region, basically, right? There are particular standards which defines the management system requirements, how the audits are done, and what needs to be fulfilled to meet those requirements, right? In the similar way, each region has its own compliance needs, audit needs, which is defined as per the ISO standards, right? International standard organizations define the management system requirements, and they specifically set out or give in certain rules and regulations on the basic things what has to be complied to be certified on those management systems, or at the bare minimum what has to be needed for that practice to be successful, right? So these systems has to be defined and ensure that they are compliant enough to this management system, basically ISO guidelines, and ensure that there are certain internal audits and external audits to be done so that they ensure that it is not only a standard-based certification, but also complies to the best practices and the minimum requirements based on various regional clauses, as well as certain industry-based compliances such as SOX, right? So it helps you manage that. So when you define such a management system and ensure that those compliance are in place, this also acts as a standardization because you are in par with the in basically following the best practices, and it is audited, and it is ensured that it is at a certain level of maturity, right? Now this also goes as an input, right? When you see the SOX clauses, you will identify what is relevant for you, what is that you need to meet, what is that is a risk if you don't meet. All this risk factors comes into picture, which goes in as an input to the AI strategy. And AI strategy actually starts from next level where you prepare the strategy along with automating few stuff. So till now, we have not yet touched base on the AI strategy itself. Till now, we were only maturing the systems in a way where we are in par with the international organizations, right? As per India, there's a long way to go because our government doesn't have any documented systems. In fact, here what happens is the government personals use Gmail as their official mail ID without any information security risks. I don't know how it is validated. We see that across our electrical, say, basically the company employees, or maybe the entities related to the region-wise departments from the government still use their Gmail IDs. Uh, Okay, that's a different thing altogether. But so in that way, we have a long way to go. Uh, the reaching this point is something which will equip us to say that we are ready for automation, not even for AI, just for automation, we are ready. That's where we are at this part of the time, at this ensuring that the systems are in place. With that, I end this episode, and the next episode would be on what was that? Next episode would be on automating steps, right? With that, I end this podcast. Thank you. Let's meet in the next podcast. Bye. Okay. Welcome to the podcast again. So here we will be talking about the first step, about the automation. So here, this is the baby step and the last step before actually we draft AI strategy. Okay. Now, AI strategy, you know about you have documented the steps, you have created systems, you have created practices, you have also created what was that? Sorry, let me rephrase it with the. I mean, I'm referring my notes. So you have documented the steps, right? You have documented the value stream. You have defined the practice. You have also defined the systems. So now you have a great understanding of how your business works, what maturity level you are in, what compliance you're supposed to comply to, what are the audit steps. So you know you will be able to segregate what are the low risk automations which you can do, be it be routine work, be it be less risk based systems. These things you can automate. This is where you would use the workflows, scripts, and other steps to take the baby step towards automation. And once you identify these steps, it's basically a long process. You have to identify the tool. For example, ServiceNow is a good tool in terms of workflow. There are many other tools. One another example is Pendo.ai, right? So these all are baby steps where you kind of work on uh, unsegregated automations, ensuring that can you actually go for AI? So here you're doing the trial and error of what works best for you, what works best for your industry, what works best for your department, what works best for your type of organization, what works best in the culture what you have, because what works best in manufacturing industry might not work good for financial industry, right? And again, financial industry in one region might have different compliance, and another region might have different compliance. So no one size fits all works anywhere, right? It's more like you'd come up with tailored solutions for automation, and you delve into less risk based activities and routine activities which you can automate in the initial step. So this is the baby step what you would be taking, which would help you come up with the AI strategy. And this is where you will start drafting the AI strategy and consider different AI tools which can help you, as simple as maybe automating the complete customer service, right? So you have documented the steps to support your product, right? You have documented the steps to support your service, right? Now, this all contributes to this particular conversational AI where you would be able to train that, right? So this is where you would come up with AI strategy and decide what works best for you before taking the next step. With that, I end this podcast. Let's meet in the next podcast, which is about actually adopting the Gen AI. What works for you, what doesn't work for you would be determined in the AI strategy. And you are at a situation where you would start experimenting on what to utilize and where and how and what works best for you. You get in the infosec teams involved, you gauge the risk, you understand better, right? Let's meet up in the next podcast, and I'll explain more on the strategy of choosing a tool and what the current tool offers as on 23rd July 2025. All right. With that, I end this podcast. Thank you. Okay. Welcome back. So this is about Gen AI, right? This is where we start the Gen AI activity. So in the last phase, you started your AI strategy, and you are in the process of shortlisting the Gen AI tools. Currently in the market, there are very less Gen AI LLMs. Basically, you need to create a LLM if it is for the enterprise use, or use one of the public LLMs, right? Most of the open source tools are already trained on the maximum rules, regulations, and if you want to set up an enterprise LLM, you can pick up any of the open source tool and start with it, explore it. So there are Cloud is there, and Grok is there, Gemini is there, Copilot is there. Also, lastly but not least, ChatGPT is there. ChatGPT, yeah, Grok, Cloud, Cloud. I'm sorry, I'm not used to how to pronounce it. I'm trying my best. Cloud is there, and also Gemini is there, and Copilot is also there. So when it comes to enterprise, especially in finance sectors or where certain compliance is at a stringent level, we suggest you to come up with the enterprise LLM, uh, which is more secure, right? This you have to develop in-house in this case, right? Especially because of the compliance factors related to information security and other things. Here it becomes tedious, especially because you have to train them on your products, you have to train them on your services, right? It's not just a conversational AI tool. It's supposed to have specializations specific to your domain, your uh, uh, industry, specific to your product, specific to your services. This is where your entire process of training the LLMs goes in, right? It's basically setting up context. What is the product? What is the context at which the services needs to be provided? So you would train. Let me put it across in a different way. There are certain confidential things also. I worked in one of the manufacturing units, which was way ahead of AI adoption back in 2018 to 2019. It was a manufacturing company which wanted to reduce their waste, right? So what used to happen is it's basically a equipment manufacturing company who basically had a moulding setup so that the equipment's parts are molded in a specific way. The waste used to occur especially with in relation to molding errors, which used to not only it wasn't just a effort waste, it was also a material waste, as in the spare parts were wasted, especially because it was not molded properly. So what we did was basically image processing. For us to do the image processing, we have to train the LLMs as to what is the right acceptance for the molded product, right? So we had a early detection in place, specifically in ensuring that the molding parts are arranged in a proper way. If at all it is molded as it is due to human errors, there were chances where the end product would have deformed, because of which using image processing, we had to train the LLMs to identify what is right alignment, what is wrong alignment, right? So this goes back to the uh, severance, maybe what I have seen as in clicking those dots in one of those episodes. So in the same way, we had to train the LLM to identify what is right, what is wrong, and what is the right alignment. Right? This is just an example. So this way, there is a enterprise level LLM specialization that has to be done. So internal LLM has to be developed so that it guards the risk related to information security, right? So now there are certain places where you use enterprise LLM. There are certain places where you will be adopting the product-based LLM. For example, let's say that How to give an example? Let's say that ServiceNow is a good example. So ServiceNow comes up with its own virtual agent, which is more of a conversation AI now, basically, right? So here, what happens is it is already equipped to handle all uh, support related to the product and what is documented inside the product. The tables are structured in a good way. So it makes it easier for you to adopt a ServiceNow based product based LLM support for the customers, right? You can also train it on your product support cases so that they come up and give the right resolution instead of developing your own LLM. Your enterprise LLM is required where basically it's more of financial transactions, right? Which happens over different tools, right? And intellectual property related concerns or information security related concerns. That's where your enterprise LLM will come into picture. But product support, there are many which you can develop because these product support are not something which is confidential to you, which might risk your brand's name. Rather, it's just a product support or maybe a conversational AI where a person is coming for some help or a request and we are enabling it. That's what a ServiceNow LLM will give you, right? It helps you navigate across the help resources. It helps you provide support for your services and products, but there's no intellectual property involved in that place. So that's where you can utilize this particular LLM, which is more of a product support. And I see that other SaaS products are trying to come up with it, but my information is limited to ServiceNow, especially because from past 8 years I have been into ServiceNow implementations, right? So I have a first-hand information of the new releases which comes out as in the release notes. So there is already a agentic AI which is being released. We'll come to agentic AI later, but you get the gist, right? So there are multiple factors which comes into picture. It is not all size fits everyone. Sorry, one size fits everyone. So basically for high risk. Imagine, let's connect back to the previous step what we had, automating low risk entities, right? Now coming to high risk entities, you have to develop your own in-house built enterprise LLM, right? When it comes, or at least have your own flavors. Even if you adopt the open source models, you're supposed to train it specifically and bound it with the security layer, right? This you can equip on the technical part. With that, Gen AI is, if I have to give uh, practical examples of what what kind of Gen AI capabilities will be used. You can automate the entire service desk call taking role. All right. You can automate the entire chat process. You can automate the entire email process. Right. Now, conversational AI is done and voice-based interactions are done. Amazon is a good product, by the way, for enterprise, especially for taking calls and automating the service desk, right? So these two parts are done. Next comes the what does the what does the next one say? Next one comes the workflows, right? So we will end the Gen AI podcast here. Gen AI is just a part of current developments which are on par. ChatGPT is good, and Grok is good with Gen AI, right? And even Cloud is good, even Copilot is good, even Gemini is good in ensuring that they understand, comprehend, and respond appropriately to all kind of queries, right? Uh, so they have been well trained on the conversational part. Next comes the workflows. We will visit the next step in the next episode. Thank you. Bye. Okay. Now coming to the workflows, right, there are when we talk about a system, a management system, there are multiple tools working together, and each tool is different. When we say each tool, for example, we have a ERP system, we have sales system, we have a after sales system, we have a financial system, we have a IT system. Uh, these all consist of multiple tools, not one or two, multiple tools. So the workflows basically helps you automate few stuff, which is less risky and mostly less decisions. Maybe, for example, let's say that you need to control the software assets, hardware assets. Good example, ServiceNow. I'm from ServiceNow, so it's easier for me to relate and give you an example of ServiceNow. You want to have control on your resources, how it is handed over to people, how to ensure there are certain cost-effective measures to give the right access to the right person, even the access control, right? This all can be automated using workflows, and that's what ServiceNow gives you a good workflow. There are other tools also, yes. So, as I said, there are multiple tools, multiple IT tools involved in each department. And these tools are already coming up with workflows. So, enabling those workflows to get rid of manual tasks, repetitive tasks, less risky tasks is the first step in workflow. So once you have this workflows in place, what you do is basically in the next step, you combine the Gen AI with the workflows, which becomes your agentic AI, right? So you are trying on one side, you are having a conversation separately. You're triggering, you're manually triggering a activity in a workflow as of now. But what happens in the next step is both gets clubbed. So here in this particular workflow automation, you're only automating redundant, repetitive, easy, simplified tasks to reduce time and also to manage resources in the best possible way. And don't consider this very small, especially because imagine automating your entire license management of your IT all together. That's one of the easiest way to get visibility of the licenses laying in your repository, getting rid of it and managing it in a better way. And there are workflows which works in tandem with the cloud access management softwares, where it reduces your license consumption to a greater extent and helps you with many strategies to optimize license usage. And SAM is a very powerful tool. I would say even out of the box, you would have visibility of especially in a bigger organization. It's a quick win, especially if you automate license management. You would be able to show enormous amount in dollars to as savings, as optimization. So that's a very powerful tool, which is a quick win, right? So this way. in this podcast we'll only be talking about workflow automation. So there are many workflow automation. Even Pendo AI has many automations in place, which is outside of ER1 tool, right? Pendo AI can also do RPA, right? RPA can also automate workflows, right? So although it's screen-based automation, but RPA can also, even ServiceNow has a RPA feature. So there are many other RPA tools also which you can utilize and ensure that automation is done with less risk, because when you use RPA, you're not sharing anything out of your particular system where the activity is being done, right? Everything is secure. That way, you can automate many things which are redundant, repetitive, or of more time-consuming, tedious tasks, which is more of a back-end task, is what I'm trying to say, back office work. Those kind of things where especially risk is involved in terms of information security, you can ensure that RPA is in place and reduce the risk related to information security in back office jobs. That's one key advantage of using RPA, because the information is not going out of the system anywhere. Okay. With that, I end this podcast. Let's connect on the next podcast where I will be talking about what? I forgot. I'll be talking about Agentic AI. Yeah. Now it starts. Thank you. Okay. Welcome back. And this would be an interesting podcast, especially because it is related to Gen AI, sorry, Agentic AI, right? So Agentic AI, we have Gen AI which is okay, but Gen AI is good in with conversation, so it can take calls. It's good with texting, so it can take care of your email-based conversational things. And on the other hand, you have workflows, which takes care of the automation to an extent with respect to redundant activities or repetitive activities, right? Now, what is agentic AI? Agentic AI is not that mature. You can't trust much on agentic AI. It's a combination of your enterprise AI or product-based AI with the workflows, right? So you have to set up certain checkpoints, like wherever there are certain decisions which leads to ambiguity, you have to avoid it, right? Only trusted ways, whatever so far from the beginning till now, whatever you have identified as low risk activities, which you have automated, is the only way forward. Anything apart from that should go slow, especially because these are not mature as of 23rd July 2025. So you have to avoid taking major risk in ensuring that agentic AI takes care of everything. No, you have to limit low risk, repetitive tasks, which you know for sure would come with a particular outcome, especially something related to, for example, let's say as simple as granting your access, right? So it goes through approval process. There is approval, there's a checkpoint, and then the workflow kicks in where it automates basically. So this happens via Gen AI. Like you go ahead and chat something and say, I need access to so and so. It automatically goes through the approval process. As soon as it is approved, it grants the access, access via the workflow, right? Workflow integration, working together Basically, there is a step-by-step approach in this, and there's an approval process. It's okay. Non-approval process, low risk is still okay. But for example, let's say that a production server has to be restarted, right? Uh, in ServiceNow, it can be enabled only if you have enough data points. As in, for example, let's say you've been using ServiceNow for last 5 years, and you have identified that last 5 years there's a common problem which is resolved using just a restart of the server. This you can certainly do in Agentic AI, and that's where ServiceNow will help you, right? This is one use case. All resilient IT use cases can be used here. The only problem is where it needs to be, it needs to happen in a uh, conservative way, where, for example, you can't allow firewall changes to be amended by agentic AI, right? It has to go through certain approval process. So it's better to have a checkpoint as it sends a mail or waits for an approval before it makes changes to anything related to firewall settings. It can be possible. As of now, there are very less offerings. Let me put it across in a different way, or for a different product. For example, uh, I had a customer come into us requesting that the enterprise storage space management should be automated, right? We were in touch with not the user of the storage, but actually as a offering from the product itself, right? So the product itself will come up with the store app, which will enable the disk maintenance with the ServiceNow App Store possible, right? Basically, it's embedded with there are certain Python scripts which comes with the SAT disk itself, basically, or say the enterprise disk, right? So there are only few, as I stated, this is not a mature, not as mature. Agentic AI still has a lot of way to go, especially because it needs to interact with the firmware, right? If at all, for example, I'm trying to restart server, OS is there. I can have a script and it can be integrated. There are certain ways to restart a particular server based on the open ports and the command being passed on, and based on other integrations such as SCCM, which is there, right? So there are ways, but when it comes to network components or disk space, there are very less limited offerings as such. You can do it manually, but again, that is high risk. Even if you do it, it should be in a way where basically you're more putting in the checkpoints. Basically, I'm from management consulting, so I always search for a process guy, right? I always search for checkpoints where we can have control so that the risk is limited. So ensuring that the risk is in place, it goes throughout especially with production systems, it waits for the approval, it doesn't proceed without the approval. These are the key checkpoints which we can incorporate into agentic AI, right? But inside ServiceNow it works awesome because its own product data structure is in place. You have been using the system for 5 years. You have a lot of historical data based on which it can analyze, it can recommend the options. But again, you should not automate, especially at this part of the time, with agentic AI proceeding or doing something in production without an approval, right? I was talking in one of the previous podcasts where basically the production data was deleted by another offering called Replant, I believe so. Replant, Replant. I'm also getting used to these offerings as of now. So what I understood is the checkpoints are critical until this matures, right? So when it's good to even this development has to be in a phase where you try it in development, you move to testing, you do all round of use case testing, and then finally you move it into production. And again, I would suggest production. Don't I know CI/CD has been there, but as long as agentic AI is there, I would suggest avoiding direct changes in production by the agentic AI directly, unless you have approval or checkpoints particular stages so that you can validate and have particular backups at consistent intervals so that you don't lose any production data or your production systems doesn't go down. This is all about agentic AI. So it's not a mature system as of now. We have very less offerings when it comes to agentic AI. It's basically a combination of conversation AI and workflows. It's basically useful when we can automate uh, and get things done at a instant. For example, you don't have you just need access to a particular document right now, and you need to you are working on a proposal, so you go chat with the agentic AI, and you give all the details. It validates the access compliance policies and other things on the go, and grants you the access. It's instant. That is where Gen agentic AI is useful. Okay. With that, I end this podcast. With the next podcast, we will come into intelligent AI. Okay. Intelligent AI. Thank you. Okay. Now, moving on to something which is unique, right? Which is happening right now, right? There is something called as vibe coding. So far, we were researching on options to auto program the code, right? We have been, this has been happening from a long time, maybe with the what was that? Deep coder, right? That was the first one which came up with the concept that we will automate the code, right? It has been happening from a long time, but now it's a concept called vibe coding. Vibe coding, right? A vibe coding is basically a method where you can achieve a complete developed prototype or a product with less amount of code being written manually. Right now, there are several players. So what is happening now is the LLMs have been maturing on its own, be it be cloud or be it be Grok or be it be Gemini or be it be ChatGPT or be it be Copilot, right? These are standard LLMs, which is available for every individual outside the enterprise also, right? Now, what happens is there is some concept called wrapper, which is an extension of this LLM, right? For example, cloud has something called a CLI. In the same way, there's a new some other tool called Lovable. I've been exploring on Lovable, so I know about this. There are many other tools also. So basically, what this does is at the back end, it connects to the LLM, but at the front end, it would help you play around with the contextual tools. For example, you can have one window open and go ahead and give as many contexts related to the end program that you want to develop from it, right? So it's basically business requirement document, functional requirement document, as well as technical requirement document, all three fed into a conversational AI where it interacts with LLM, and it's based on what it has been already trained on, right? Because LLMs are already trained on all the worldly things which we already know. So based on that, it will go ahead and put in the code automatically, right? But for you to be on control, what you need to do is basically ensure that you specify the language and the technical platform on which it has to program so that a code review is possible, because you can't rely on the systems at this part of the time. It is not yet mature, so you need a code review for sure. And enable three separate instances: development, test, and prod, and don't allow anything for this intelligent AI to go ahead and amend in the production. Okay, and these wrappers are so good that they do a end-to-end testing as well as they resolve the errors. They run the program on their own. They identify the errors. They resolve the errors. They keep going in cycle as long as the error is fixed. At least both CLI as well as Lovable does it. All right. So this is about complete code automation. But again, I wouldn't say don't depend on that code. Ensure that you have a code review, and especially ensure that a particular tech stack is used for this code as a contextual requirement, so that you can review the code and ensure that it's in the right way, and pass on as much as requirements possible toward from the guidelines as well as from all other regulation aspects, so that you get the end product. What I have observed or what I have found is using Lovable, I would be able to recreate a Twitter program within a week's time, a replica of Twitter or the X social platform can be replicated as a prototype within 1 week, right? Now with a domain name and hosting, web hosting services, you would be able to launch it and scale it up. But scaling and launching it into a particular domain and with hosting. For CLI, it does on its own. If you have the domain name, you can give it the context and move the code to prod. But Lovable also does it, right? Lovable also does it. So it's becoming very simple with coding and developing a program, but these systems are not mature. They are error prone. So there is a need for us to go ahead and review the code, also ensure that suffice testing is done before we move to prod. And please don't allow the intellectual AI or the white coders to go ahead and move production code to production, right? With that, I end this podcast. Next is basically the last one, and I would also go ahead and give some more tips on what comes after super intelligent AI. With that, I end this podcast. Thank you. Bye bye.